Today we're going to talk about the future of retail, circular economy, and sustainability for premium and luxury brands. A little bit information about your host. So Futurist is a digital innovation consultancy in short. It's founded in Finland. We're very much European with 7 offices and more than 600 people. Emerging Businesses Futurist is task force for understanding emerging technology, design, data-related trends, and work on them at the client front in order to make business sense out of it. We're in one of those community meetings that we have every other week, where we come together, talk about some of the output of our work, trends that is really interesting to our community, as well as exchange ideas around those. It is open to externals as well. Just reach me out and I'll make sure to add you to the mailing list. And my role at Emerging Business is that I'm basically the guy who takes in the information together with my teammate, disseminate it inside Futurist, and based on that drive a roadmap. I will ask Matteo now to briefly introduce himself, and maybe while you're at it, Matteo, you can help us understand the difference between a premium brand and a luxury brand.
Thank you, Tugberk, and good morning, everyone. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a supply chain executive. I've been working in the industry of fashion and luxury for the last 15 years. I've been primarily working in the United States, where I spent the bulk of my career at Brooks Brothers, the American retailer. And I also worked in Ireland, where I was the head of supply chain for Bulgari, which is a luxury brand under the LVMH group. I spent my early days were in Italy working in apparel business, specializing in licensing business. I will bring today my perspective on especially on the sector of the luxury, on fashion, apparel, textile. That's where I have tons of experience. Just more food for thoughts, and it's an open conversation for by any means. To your question, Tugberk, I think it's semantics. They could mean the same thing, or it could mean different things depending on how you kind of define those. What is important to me, and I will address it later. It's the way there are different tiers that could be defined by product quality or tiers defined by price. And that's where, in my opinion, the focus needs to be, because along with these tiers, with when you do a product segmentation, you might have different strategies. For example, when it comes to circularity and sustainability, that to me is where we need to probably be more cautious, because that I would say that circularity and sustainability is not like a one size fits all, and especially for luxury, we need to be very careful. We cannot use the same tactics or the same strategy to say for all the same products. When you start segmenting, that's when you have a more smart approach.
Thank you, Matteo, and I see that you are very excited about getting into the topic, but I'd like to basically take a step and maybe share some of the wisdom that we were granted through the circular economy and sustainability strategies course with the rest of the audience, so that we are on the same page. I'm gonna run through this very quick. There was a rhetoric question in the course. Do we live in an unsustainable world? Actually, there was a poll around it, and unsurprisingly, 87% of the participants said that yes, we are living in an unsustainable world. So there are actually 3 things that is nowadays leading to this unsustainable world that we live in. The first one is over exploitation and over production. It basically use the natural capital, natural resources that we have, whether that is soil, air, mineral, plants, animal. We overproduce. Through the exploitation, we are driving them to extinction. We fail to price the goods when we produce them, when we distribute them wrongly in the market. So we never actually reflect the cost of social and environmental cost on the pricing of the goods that we put into the market. And then, as if all of this is not enough, we accelerate the resource depletion. This is sometimes a conscious choice through plant obsolescence. For example, a good example for the plant obsolescence is the smartphone industry. Better product becomes available in a commodified price where you actually feel the need as a consumer to upgrade. So when you put together all of these, it's no surprise that we are living in an unsustainable world. And I'd like to put this in a number. Again, this is something we have been shown through the course. So the amount of food that is wasted in the food value chain is 31%. The amount of times that our cars just sitting in front of our homes or workplaces is 92%. And the percentage of lost value for plastic after recycling is 60 to 70%. So here is the culprit, the linear take, make, use, dispose economy that we have here. Nowadays, we also see like initiatives going on around, for example, recycling. But if you know the Ellen MacArthur butterfly diagram, you would see that recycle is at the very end of the kind of the butterfly semicircle in the technosphere side, which means that it is the most resource consuming exercise under the name of circular economy. It is a good step in the right direction, but it is not enough. We always talk about systems thinking. We need to have the systemic change. We need to bring systems thinking into organization. What you see here, each bubble is a system, and we can't do initiatives within these systems without considering the interdependencies between those. We can't put electric batteries into the cars in the use segment without understanding how we are going to dispose it and bring it back to the production process. This is what it should look like in an ideal circular economy. We don't have just a single loop at the end of the linear economy, but we have these small loops for within each system and between the systems in order to establish the full circularity in this sense. Some of the examples here, as you read, refurbish, manufacture, upcycle, maintain, repair, share, lease, and obviously the dispose, the recycle, to create side streams for the items that we cannot recycle back to the production of the same value chain. But the thing is, now bringing it back to the topic that we are going to discuss today, we are not able to offer these options, what sounds really good on table, refurbishing, remanufacturing, maintaining, repairing, from the get-go for the luxury and premium brands. There is a mismatch between the brand value, what the brand promises to the users who buy it, and what the circular economy principles kind of imposes, should they be taken into action. And this thought has came actually through one of the conversations that we were having in the Circular Economy and Strategies Forum, where Matteo talked about something called Panettone.
So the story of Panettone is very interesting. It's a cake for when you celebrate Christmas that you have it in every Italian's table. But so you can find it in the supermarket. However, there's local brands. That's when you introduce terms of premium brands or more luxury that have like this panettone that you can find it, normally you don't spend more than probably 10 euros in the supermarket. But the one that I'm talking about, it's something that was retailing at like 30 euros or 35. So we're talking about like a common product, but with a brand that is like meant to be a little bit more premium. Those panettone, in the process of raising, they have a very precise standard. They need to grow a certain amount of centimeters, and if it doesn't reach that particular height, and if there's no one taking those items and try to kind of maybe donate, they got disposed, they go to landfill. And so that kind of triggered the conversation between me and Tugberk. Okay, what should we do? What these brands should be doing? And I think it was an interesting example, because you start talking about, for example, that brands, premium brands or luxury brands, they probably need to start using production technology and innovation to improve production accuracy. Because if you do that, then you're going to reduce your waste. You're going to reduce the percentage of defects. You manage at the source of the problem. The other point here that this example, of course, is the importance of having a second hand, an outlet, like a resale channel, to tackle the excess inventory or the inventory that will be destroyed because it doesn't comply with the standard of the quality that the brands have. So, and again, in the apparel business, there are plenty of examples that now, luckily, they're taking place, like Vestiaire Collective or Farfetch, Valentino Vintage. They're introducing a voucher. That's a positive sign. To conclude the example, I think what was interesting in the conversation between me and Tugberk was that I also have a provocation here, is that luxury brand, are defined by these high standards. These brands, do they have to keep these high standards? There's a supermarket chain in America. It's called Whole Foods. They're very. It's a premium grocery retail chain, and I was reading articles that this chain they dispose every day, I don't know how many tons of apples, only because those apples have like a little scratch or like a very imperceptible minuscule defect, and they're not perfect. Maybe can we lower a little bit the threshold?
Can you uphold these values within the transformation that our world needs to go through, our businesses needs to go through? And let's start with the downstream. You remember the linear value chain and the premium luxury brands. They are somewhere manufacture and they use. And let's talk about what is coming after that. There is other examples from the other industries. If you think about, there's this brand that is Finnish called Swappy, which takes Apple phones and gives them a second life, and it's a completely different entity from the actual brand. And the marketplaces that you talked about are also complete different entities. On the other hand, IKEA is not a luxury brand, but IKEA is taking responsibility of the secondhand introduction and actually creating a secondhand market, so owned by them. So if you think about the values of a premium and luxury brand, what is the playing field here? Do they need to keep doing what they're doing because that's their core, and let the business do its magic, where there's a business opportunity, there's a company that is going to fulfill that role? Or do they need to step up and actually do something more on the downstream part?
One of probably the most iconic brands, like Patagonia, they have done a lot about circularity and sustainability. Their CEO admitted very candidly that the dream of having a completely sustainable business, a completely circular industry, is impossible. And if the CEO of Patagonia, they basically put their efforts since the get-go, since the inception, admitted very, very candidly, we need to kind of set our expectation in a very realistic way. That doesn't mean that we don't have to do anything, but it's going to be challenging and it's going to be transformational. That's just to start. To your question, Tugberk, the way I see it, there are three keywords. Circularity, of course, is one. Servitization, get into service, and segmentation, as I mentioned earlier. Circularity is key, and you already explained with a butterfly diagram that's the basis. But to me, that's more important, that the brands, especially in the premium and the luxury sector, they need to clearly segment their product in order to introduce different possibilities, different sustainable services. For example, if we talk about high quality products, those are more prone for extended warranty for starters, or to introduce the concept of repair, to offer the repairs. So we need to start having these brands putting their bill of materials. Also, the components, they have to be available also when the consumer, the final customer, just wants to get repair. More importantly, in my opinion, and that's where a lot of brands are going, high quality products can be rented or leased in what is called a closed loop. Examples here. Well, it's a pretty renowned brand. It's called Rent a Runway. where you basically, you need a tuxedo for a wedding, you can get there. Another super interesting example, it's not probably premium or luxury, but I think the combination of certain concept was amazing, was H&M. Rental, they just like launched a rental, but they also introduced the technology of blockchain. So they make it more fun. So that it's a rental, and then you can, through the blockchain, you can actually, every single consumer can record the memories of like getting dressed with that cloth, and all this information is stored in the blockchain. That to me is like an awesome example of combining a sustainable strategy with the technology of the blockchain. And this is for high quality. Remember, when you segment the product, you can also go down to more medium low quality, even within the luxury realm. And for those, when you go down to medium low, there's more opportunity for reuse, for refurbishing, recycle, resale. To me, there's a fantastic example. It's a Swiss footwear brand called On Running. They are going to launch probably next month a subscription program, and it's called Cyclone. Every 3 months, they send you a pair of shoes. They are made entirely of castor bean oil, and so completely natural raw materials. And then after 3 months that you've been enjoying your shoes, you have to send them back, and they will send another pair made of recycled of the same materials that they've been using. So if you think about this program, that's the circularity at its best. And that introduced me also the other elements, because why it is the circularity at its best, because not only you're using materials that are not for example, you're not using cotton, which is super heavy for water consumption. You're using castor bean oil, but you are introducing sustainability from the design, which is another key aspect. It's because when you talk about sustainability, you're not talking about only reverse logistic. In my opinion, is like it's a wider umbrella. It's a reverse operation, and it includes sustainable design. It also, when you go to more supply chain field, you need to partner with your manufacturer, and if you do that, you basically you have to try to reduce or remove the minimum order quantity, because when you do that, of course, you don't have excess inventory. Another, in my opinion, underestimated, but to me super important, the brands needs to manage more carefully the demand forecast, because if you have a greater accuracy in the forecast, you of course you reduce the excess inventory. But also from a supply chain, from a distribution, I think brands needs to embrace a more decentralized distribution network. You need to have more points closer to the consumers, so you can of course avoid air shipments, and you put more emphasis on boat, or like, there are some examples very interesting in LVMH. There was Hennessy, the brand in the food and beverage. There's a route from France to United States. That's their primary market. They are about to launch this transportation, which is basically a sailboat. It's like a big boat for containers, but it's not propelled by motor, but by sails. So they are partnering with this very green company, and that's something that you can do. There are alternatives. Of course, they are maybe more expensive, but that's where you reduce your carbon footprint. And just maybe the last couple of points about when you talk about reverse operation. Of course, data when you exchange data is super important, because as you were saying, Tugberk, in the circularity framework, my input could be someone else's output, and my output is going to be someone else's input. So if there's no a smart exchange of data, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to make it work. And finally, I would say something super interesting. There's a opportunity, greater opportunities, it's called co-creation and mass personalization. So and that can be achieved with the 3D printing. There's a growing trend of personalization and customization, and the fact that you can do it via technology, that's going to accelerate this trend and make it more scalable. And something that is already used in the industry, for example, for prototyping, for sampling, so that you can save a lot of money in the cost of goods sold, transportation. But that is also trending up in production, because when you can do that, then of course you understand that you can reduce, again, waste. You can reduce the to make inventory that nobody wants, because that's going to be personalized and customized.
One comment that I'd like to make, what you said in your comment for the previous question, it sounds like to me it depends on mostly three things. The first is we need to make sure that the leadership teams has different incentives than just financial performance. The second thing is, like, compared to lease and ownership. Ownership financially is a still more viable option, because we don't reflect the cost of environmental and natural expenses into the pricing. So the lease become a more expensive option in the long run for certain items. If you think about it, people do online shopping, and then sometimes they order 2, 3, 4 different sizes of the same item in order to make sure that they will get the one that actually fits them and send back to the 4. And this doesn't cost them any extra, but there is a cost on the environment when you do so. So how do we make sure that we actually reflect that cost, so that we kind of encourage people to have the right behavior, is one of the questions as well, while doing so, financially not jeopardizing the business that we have. The final point to what you said, which is going to be a segue to the question that I'm going to ask you, is you talked about data, sharing the data between the partners. How much, it's important, but you need to be able to have suppliers or the partners that are on the same mindset. That is one thing. How much the luxury brands, as you know them, can actually impose that rules to their suppliers and partners. And we have, for example, people from Zalando here, which is a natural partner for any fashion clothing brand. What is the role of that kind of third party when establishing this kind of partnerships to create a more sustainable future? And you have actually 2 minutes, because I used the extra one.
So it's impossible in 2 minutes to answer all these questions, but I'll probably take the last one, which is, I think it's the most important one, and I can maybe answer later for the other ones. So it is a collaboration game, and you said it. Zalando, for example, is actually is one of the company that partner, for example, with Infinite Fibers, and they're using like this new it's called Infina, and that's it's a fiber made it's not made of with cotton. It's like it's super it's made from wood pulp, if I'm not mistaken. So there's of course the game is all about partnership and getting together, because this Infinite Fiber is not doing this only for Zalando. He's doing also for Patagonia, for example, and other brands. I can quote you other example, Tugberk, for example, LVMH, Prada Group, and Richemont. They got together in a consortium for blockchain, and the blockchain is called Aura blockchain. But also the same Cartier with Kering, the other big group. They are teaming up with the Responsible Jewelry Council for watch and jewelry. That's to me, that's the direction, because these are uncharted territories, and so you want to stick together with other big brands to not be exposed financially, because you don't know, and there are critical investments to be made, and so you want to make sure that you're kind of diluting a little bit the risk by going with other partners. Of course, it's, in my opinion, and in closing up and as a last comment, I would say this is an effort that require from leadership in the companies, from of course from government institution, but I believe also it takes also on the final customer some responsibility.
I'm going to actually hand it over to Anna to talk about one of the ways of starting your journey with the circular economy and circular design that we have been thinking of.
So we've been trying to devise together a tool with our partners, VTT, the Technical Research Institute of Finland. How can we engage the partners more in the circular economy processes? And quoting my colleague Inka, what she's saying from VTT, that regardless where you are in the value chain, you need to understand the big picture, that this is the only way that when you see how the whole product travels across the value chain, combining that with the circular design principles, then we can see where the potential lies for future partnerships and future collaborations. What stops fashion brands from collaborating downstream and upstream the value chain, and what can be done to improve that?
What they fear is the dilution of the brand. 3 years, like the resale business has been decuplicating in the last 5 years, and even in front of those numbers, there were still resistance, still fear to say, oh no, we're not going to use the outlet, we're not going to use the second hand or the resale market.
Would it make sense to extend the use rather than recycle?
No doubt that by extending the replenishment cycle in terms of time, that's going to be beneficial for the program itself in terms of sustainability, no doubt.
Is there a need to cut significantly the inventory, increase value, and promote circular economy initiatives like H&M and IKEA, especially for fast fashion?
The biggest problem of the global supply chain right now, all the situation that we have with port stock, it's not about quantity, it's where the inventory is. That's always a problem. So by translating this concept, it's the same here. Definitely we need to cut inventory, but not only we need to cut inventory, we need to be more smart on where we place the inventory.
And the next question is probably my favorite because it touches upon this thing called greenwashing. The question is such that, what is your experience? Is there a lot of window dressing? Sustainability is becoming a buzzword. Many brands will understand that they need to have a sustainability mark, but is that really fact-based? And are there hidden non-sustainable processes?
There's now a new word is called greenwashing, which is even worse. Greenwashing is when a company basically say, yeah, we're planning to do this in 3 years, we're going to be sustainable, but we don't know actually how to do it. So it's called greenwashing, which is even worse and more frustrating, because even though if you want to do it, then you don't know where to start. But yes, there's a lot of greenwashing.
Many luxury brands are at least 80 or 100 years old. That creates a lot of legacy thinking. How to maybe challenge that? What drives the change in the luxury market segment?
Every brand tells a story. They can, and they probably should, start telling a different story. They narrate a different path for different objectives.
This is going to be a massive transformation challenge, but we still need to do it, and that's why I think Matteo touched this already a couple of times. We can't do this alone. We need to go with partnerships. We need to source that talent. Who is going to be able to bring that, data-driven new service model, new business model into our organization? We need to go find it. If you're opening up a second-hand shop, a platform, or we are encouraging a sharing platform for the good that we have in the market, we need to bring the insurance company to create a new insurance product so that service could be provided. So this is the part where like partnerships and ecosystem thinking comes into play in order to overcome that legacy thinking and come over that fast.
Are the customers gravitating towards fast fashion but with a sustainability label on it? So how to change the attitude of investors as well, because people are expecting this double-digit growth within companies, and whatever we do with circular economy, the growth is not going to be the same as when with the use of resources.
Investors are actually heavily involved. The numbers are growing exponentially. In terms of customers, company needs to put some incentive into the equation. I think still the consumer wants to have something back for their virtuous action, at least of participating actively in the sustainability chain.
I think there is a certain subgroup in the end user that favors sustainable product. Aspect of what happens when you take a product and it is going to deteriorate over the years. That's also one of the benefits of the lease model, right? You always get the brand new experience every time you change the the good for the new one. So we need to highlight actually that value a little bit better for the users to change their mind. You have some final words that you would like to share with?
Thanks everyone for joining. I think it was a pretty exciting conversation.
Thank you very much for joining, and let's be in touch about this. This topic is interesting and something we need to be continuously and increasingly working on.